This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. What I'm looking at today is 2020's Girl, directed by Faust. And Girl is a really good movie, which I did not expect. And it's very much in the female vengeance genre, or I should say subgenre, which is for me exemplified in movies like I Spit on Your Grave from 1971. Which is to say, you have a movie written and directed by a man supposedly reflecting the perspective of a woman. You have much cruelty dished out towards the woman who somehow escapes and comes back to do the exact same thing, only worse, to the men that did whatever act to her. These movies tend to be very rapey in nature and somewhat hard to watch, and I Spit on Your Grave is no different. It's not a bad movie, and it's actually pretty interesting, but a little intense sometimes. Girl is in a similar vein, also written and directed by a man. But the interesting thing about Girl is that it doesn't take the perspective of righteousness that these movies tend to work on. In a sense that the woman in those type of movies is always wrong and her vengeance is just. No matter how terrible the things that she does to these men, it's justified based on their treatment of her. Girl turns that on its head in really interesting ways. It revolves around this young woman who returns to the town she grew up in. Her mother lives there, and she's coming back for an act of vengeance. What that act of vengeance is, I won't tell you. Though it's worth mentioning, this girl is really good with hatchets. If you've seen the poster, she has that hatchet for a reason. She is really good with it, and she does not play. Though, as I said, she's returning home for vengeance on somebody. And so the whole movie revolves around her unearthing her past and enacting revenge on someone. Though the thing is, it doesn't go quite as she planned. And that's what's most interesting about this movie. It revolves around heinous acts, but they're heinous acts filtered through time. Which is to say, our lead into this movie, the girl, is not quite the most reliable narrator. She's not a liar, but she's also not a reliable narrator. What she's saying, you can't take at face value. Not really. But see, that's what's so interesting about it. Typically, when you see these type of movies, oh, by the way, I should mention Quentin Tarantino. His Kill Bill movies are variations on this theme. And that was a good movie, but it didn't do anything new with it. It's very predictable. Girl changes the whole dynamic, since you can't trust her as a narrator, as a proxy for the audience. The movie will tell you why that's the case. Though, since you can't trust her, it puts an entire new spin on everything she sees and everything she responds to. It, in a way, reinvigorates the revenge thriller. And this movie stars Mickey Rourke. Mickey Rourke, if you've seen him, has a face that looks like a special effect, which is to say, it looks like putty. And I know for a time he was into boxing, but unless he literally let people pummel his face, I don't buy that boxing caused his face to look as it does. Because lots of people box, they don't look like Clayface. So I don't get that. I mention him, besides the fact that he's in the movie, is that he's distracting. He's a decent actor here, but his face is distracting. Because I kept wondering to myself, what happened to this man and why does he look as he does. Though the narrative of Girl is interesting enough and it's propulsive enough that after a point, I didn't notice his face as much. I didn't find myself caring because he's really interesting in this movie and it's so strongly written. What I also like about it is that there's not a lot of things happen because movie. At least I didn't detect them on the first watch. I will watch this again at some point. Though, what bothers me in many instances with these type of movies is, as I said, things happen because movie. There's no real logic. It just happens because it needs to happen because someone wrote it in the script. There's not a lot of that in Girl, which is appreciated. Though Chad Faust, who also stars in the movie, he dies in a fashion that is kind of because movie. It doesn't really make sense. Oh hell, I'll tell you how he dies. He is accidentally set aflame. Now I can't speak for you, and I've never been set aflame before, but I'm gonna roll around. Why? Because I'm on fire. It seems like the normal thing to do, not just lay there and burn, which is essentially what he did. It felt very much because movie that happened. It's a minor detail, not that big a deal, but his character is really seedy and should have died, but he shouldn't have died like that because it made no sense. I mean, I guess it could be shocking, really shocking, which is probably the understatement of a decade, if you're suddenly set ablaze. But you also are wearing clothing, as he was in this case. So he was actually wearing a robe. I don't know, if you can't take off the robe, roll on the floor. It's what we're taught as children, and it seems like a very logical way to approach this thing. But that didn't happen, and it seems to me because movie. But on the whole, Girl is a really good, unexpected thriller. And, well, it's not unexpected, it's a thriller because it is a thriller. It's unexpected that it's as good as it is. And even the title, Girl, for a time kind of bugged me because Bella Thorne's character is clearly not a girl. She's a woman. But it's relevant to the story. It makes sense. And it's less a commentary on her as an adult than on her when she was indeed a girl. And these events happened which shaped her entire life. If you have not seen Girl, I saw it on iTunes. I'm pretty sure you can find it anywhere. This is an awesome movie. Check it out. This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and review. Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like or a follow. Peace.